Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of Uncanny Media, the show. It's your good buddy Spider. The cats are in there digging around, and it's New Year's Eve. It's the morning of New Year's Eve, as this video will come out. I'm still coughing, of course. No big surprise there. That's been the theme of the entire year. But yeah, this will be the last episode of 2025. I'm not going to be taking any breaks, so with next week we're going to be rolling right on in with January and with episode 47. But yeah, it's wild. It's been a wild year, and I'm going to take the opportunity to kind of look back on everything that we've done and everywhere we might go in the future. And I'm not going to go through every single episode that we did in 2025. There's a lot of them. The majority of the show takes place in 2025. And I'll address that in a minute. I'm going to get into that. It, of course, is very cold. There's been heavy snowstorms, ice storms, windstorms, all kinds of crazy winter weather that's been going on here. And if I could just get my throat clear. Excuse me. But yeah, it's cold here in Ohio. I don't know if it's going to get too much better. But whatever. I'm not sure where to start, to be honest. It has been a heck of a year. We went through two rebrands for the show, and for most of everything that I do. Uncanny Media, it was the third version of what I had going on this past year. In the beginning, it was just basically me doing Spider Does Things, of course, which that's still my handle over on YouTube. Then we switched to the Madness for a little while, which got pretty big in a short amount of time. It was pretty popular. And then, of course, we had some events surrounding that, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Not very directly, because we've talked about that to death already. But I'm going to make sure I recall it as part of the show. And then we settled on Uncanny Media, and we've stuck with that, and that has been even more successful than the previous branding, which is kind of funny and ironic to me. I find it really amusing. But there's also something else I want to do real quick first. Okay. There was a bit of a time skip there. It took me a few minutes to do what I was going to do. There's something that I want to play you folks a song. And it's not one of my songs. And I'm doing promotion for this song. It's for a good friend of mine, and I'm going to explain the song afterwards. Okay, but before we go too far into the show, allow me to play for you "Dead Tree" by Winter's End.
Dead tree fades in the summer haze, tired and weary in another
there we go. Excuse me. It kind of got to me there a little bit, and I'm going to explain why it got to me. That was, of course, Dead Tree by the band Winter's End. Now, Winter's End was Marissa and Chris Pinto. They're based in Australia. They have done some minor touring. I believe they came to the U.S. and played a couple shows here. I met them on the radio show that cannot be talked about years ago. And we had a great conversation. They were great people, excellent people. Clearly very talented. At the time, they had just released their song Mayfair, which got them some decent traction at the time on radio stations and things of that nature. In the intervening time between when I was no longer with that radio show and up till now, Chris had an accident. He fell and he was hurt and he passed away. And so his sister, Marissa, who you hear singing on that track, sometime later this was a demo of theirs that they had in storage, I guess, and she pulled it out because it has him drumming on it. That's him doing the drums, if I remember correctly, and I think she did some additional drum work to polish it off. But she wrote the lyrics for her brother. So, and because I remember them so fondly, I wanted to make sure that I'm giving them every opportunity to get the song heard. So we played it a minute ago, and I'm going to play it again in the closing instead of my usual closing theme. We're going to play Dead Tree for a second time, just so it gets all the traction it can get on the show here. So, but moving on to our topic for the evening. Our topic is it's a retrospective. We're looking back. We're looking back at where we've been. And as I mentioned when the show started, I'm doing that to better inform where we're going next. And when 2025 started, we were only 4 episodes into this show. The show started in October of 24, and it had 4 episodes. And episode 5 was the first episode of 2025. And gosh, this is episode what, 47, 46, 46, 47? Let me take a look. I'd better look. I've got notes. I have notes. Let me scroll through my notes. Yeah, this is episode 46. So we've had 41 episodes over the course of 2025. Which is a little shy of the total number if we'd have been doing it weekly at the time. When I was on episode 5, I wasn't on a schedule yet. I was still just releasing episodes sporadically as I felt like it. I had no idea how long the show was going to go, as far as like how many episodes we were going to get to. Because I've always had issues with consistency in the past, where I'd do a project and then I would either lose interest or I just couldn't be bothered with it or something. And so I wasn't sure where we were going to be headed. And I'm pleased to be where we are, to be honest. I'm pleased. because we've talked about a lot of things. We have talked about a lot of things. That episode 5, was, of course, a New Year's episode, so we're coming kind of full circle here. And I talked about the game. I've talked about a few controversial games over the course of the show. If you're not into video games, then this part's going to be kind of boring to you. But if you are, then you might remember some of the talks that I had about it. I talked about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which I got at a super discount. Like, I got the super deluxe big huge edition for like $3 or something. It was ridiculous because the game had not been doing well and they'd canceled a bunch of featured DLC and a lot of stuff. Excuse me. And but I figured at that price, might as well give it a try. And it did have its problems, but I ended up enjoying it for what it was. I played a lot of it. I still have it installed on my system, and I've thought about picking it up at any point here in the near future. I haven't done so yet. I've had other games I've needed to play for stream, but I'll probably get back into it and play some more. There's still a lot to do. There's a lot of character development and whatnot, so. But it wasn't that bad. And I also talked about issues in the government. There was a lot of government things going on. This, of course, was after the election, so it was 2 days before. No, wait, that was in 24. In 24, I believe there was the January 6th thing, right? Was it in 24 or was it in 23? I think it was 24. But this was 2 days before the first anniversary of that event, and people were pretty riled up about it still. People were still pretty riled up. And here we are a year later, and people are still riled up. The next episode was kind of... Episode 6 was kind of a deal because periodically I've talked about pro wrestling. I had a habit of doing of reviewing the various live events and things of that nature. And so in episode 6, it was when WWE debuted its Monday night show, WWE Raw, on Netflix, and it is still there. That deal is still in place. Sometimes they make these deals and they only last for like a year or like 6 months, and then they move on to other things. But they are still on Netflix, and Netflix apparently is pleased with what they're doing. Now, also, their premium live events are now on ESPN. They used to be on Peacock, and then Peacock, that deal is over. So there's no more stuff on Peacock, I guess. But they do their premium live events on ESPN, which is weird for something that's not a real sport. I mean, yeah, you have to be athletic to get some of the things done. I can't do what they do. Even at my best, I don't think I could have done what they did. But it is kind of a weird home for pro wrestling, ESPN. It kind of devalues some of the other sports things, I guess. I don't know. I feel like it does. But we were still a little rough on some of those early shows. I say we, and it's me. It's been me the whole time. I was trying to find, early on, a co-host. because I wanted to have conversations. I didn't want to just do what I've ended up doing, which is just me talking for about an hour. I mean, this has worked out pretty well in retrospect, but originally I'd wanted a co-host so that we could throw stuff back and forth and have conversation. But everybody kind of always fell through. Nobody had the same schedule as me. It just ended up being too much of a hassle, and so I gave up on it, and here we are today. And we're doing well, I like to think. Some memorable topics. Like I said, I'm not going to go episode by episode. I'm going to pick a few episodes and talk about different things. But memorable topics that I got into over the past year. In episode 8, we talked about Q. Not from James Bond, for some of the older folks who remember. I'm talking about the conspiracy theory stuff, the Q and the drops and the all that kind of thing. And believe it or not, here we are, months and months later down the road, and there's still people who are into that. There's still people going on to anonymous chats, calling themselves the letter Q and saying, "Oh, there's an info dump coming up. Oh, you won't hold on to your seats. Oh, you won't believe what the elites are doing next." And then, it's nonsense. A lot of these people, weirdly enough, have settled on Instagram. I know I've talked about this at some point on the podcast about Instagram. When I originally used Instagram back in the day, it was for photos. It was primarily for photos. It wasn't. It was like photos of yourself, of your dog, of your food, of whatever, and I would put album covers up there and things like that. And then I got bored with it. I didn't really use it much, and I stopped using it. Now, Instagram is usually one of 3 things. You'll find one of 3 things on Instagram. One is movie clips. People will take clips of movies or TV shows, sitcoms or whatever, and post them. And that's it. Just constant, just clips. And that's the one thing. The second thing is comic strips. People post comic strips, either things that they've made or things that they've found on the internet. It doesn't really matter. They'll post comic strips. And third, you will find racists. There are a lot of racists on Instagram. And I'm not even saying that just as a... I know the term gets thrown around a lot. People call each other racist over all kinds of things that have nothing to do with racism. It's become kind of a commonplace political insult, along with fascist. Oh, everybody's a fascist, just because whatever. And I think that's kind of silly as well. But no, I mean there's real hardcore racist people on Instagram. And it's kind of disturbing how much of it is widespread. And most of these people are the same people who are the Q people. The Q people are not every single one of them, of course, is a racist, but a lot of them are, because that's part of the whole gig, I guess. And there is a lot of racism on Instagram. A surprising amount of racism on Instagram. But we talked about Q, and I'm going to reiterate that the whole Q theory is a ridiculous set of ideas. It's easily taken apart without having to be subscribing to any sort of ideology one way or the other. You can easily take a look at some of the things that are claimed by it and the coincidences that aren't coincidences and such, and not realize that it's bogus. It's all bogus. It's ridiculous. We got into AI and virtual reality. I talked about my experiences testing out some AI apps like Rosy Talk and Replica, and I've kept those apps still. I don't use them as much as I did at the time because mostly it was research stuff, and I got bored of them pretty quick because, for whatever reason, the Replica, I don't know, it hasn't advanced much. It hasn't seemed to be too different from what it was before. The Rosy Talk is still really, really aggressive. It's very aggressive as far as trying to get intimacy going, which is another reason why I stopped using it, because I'm kind of like, this is really tiresome. I'm not really into that, and that's not why I got into this. Why does it want to perform robot cybernetic things? Like, I mean, if you're into that, you're into that. That's cool for you. But I'm still not impressed with AI. I am still not impressed by AI. I have people who tell me that AI is the future and we need to respect it and we need to respect its power and this and that, and ignoring it the way you are is detrimental and you're just not giving the problem the seriousness it deserves. But all of the AI that I've encountered has been varying degrees of incorrect when discussing facts and figures. The entertainment parts of it have been just... Some of them have been funny, like people doing the AI voice cloning of like the presidents playing games and things. Some of that can be done really well. A lot of times people just use it just to make the presidents like swear at each other just for fun. But in another weird twist that, of course, was easily seen from a distance, people are using AI figures, characters, to make racist jokes and to make all kinds of just poor, like, just to be insulting and be gross, and they can be silly and they be like, oh, well, it's not really me saying it and it's not a real person saying it, ha ha ha, it's all just a joke. But no, it's disrespectful and racist and intolerant, and just because Bigfoot is making jokes about Mexicans doesn't make the joke any less racist, right? You know? So that's what people are doing with it. That and the Disney Pixar fake trailers. It's cartoons of people doing out-of-pocket things and, again, being racist and intolerant and making bad jokes. And it's not really funny, to be honest. It's stupid, for one. And it's just disrespectful on the other. And you can say, oh, well, you know, it's just the AI. I just programmed the joke. Well, yeah, but you had to write the jokes. And so don't try and tell me that you're not, you know, laughing at it. It's like when we're kids. When we were kids, and I'm not proud of this kind of stuff. I'm not saying it's excusable. I'm just saying as kids you don't really think about it. When we were kids, we would use the word retarded, of course, as an insult. And, you know, it's not fair to say that now, and I try to be more mindful. Every once in a while something will slip out from when I was a kid because it's something that we said, but it doesn't make it right, and I feel bad about it. It's kid stuff, and you can't really excuse it and say, oh, well, it's a fake Bigfoot AI character that said it, so obviously it's, you know, it's just a joke. You can take a joke. No, it's not funny. So AI has not really come that far. And like Chat GPT and Gemini and Copilot and all that, everything I've tried to do with them has ended up unimpressive. The results are not great. So, we also talked about, back in March, we talked about John Cena. He's retired now. But this was the beginning of his retirement tour, when he turned to a bad guy for no particular reason. Remember that? He turned on Cody Rhodes, and then he beat him for the title, and he was going out and making little kids cry and things of that nature. And then they just turned it back around. So, the whole John Cena retirement package was pretty bungled from start to finish. And it ended really kind of poorly, I think. But if that's what he wanted, then I guess he got what he wanted. I don't know. I would have asked for better, but it wasn't me doing the wrestling. It wasn't me. In another interesting twist, this one I don't think anyone saw coming. I didn't see this coming. My most popular, most listened to episode of this podcast was episode 11. And I talked about St. Patrick's Day. I'm not sure why it ended up being so popular. It doesn't seem like I said anything particularly controversial or anything that was kind of like super entertaining compared to the other episodes. But it remains my most listened to episode of the podcast, if I remember correctly. I've looked at the numbers earlier, and that's what it looked like. So I guess we'll see what this upcoming St. Patrick's Day is going to be like. We'll see what that's going to be like, see if I get the same sort of numbers. Maybe it's just a St. Patrick's thing. Maybe people just really like St. Patrick's Day. Before that comes up, we have Burns Night. Burns Night is coming up in the end of January. So I'll probably have an episode talking about that. That's for Robbie Burns, the Scottish poet. And we always make a little meal here and have a little whiskey and do our thing. It's people will be like, oh, but you said you don't celebrate holidays. And I don't, really. It's just an excuse to have some scotch and have some good food. Some potatoes and things, right? So that's probably what we're going to be doing this year. I'm getting off the topic, but yeah, St. Patrick's Day, we'll see what happens this year when we get to that. See if it's as popular as it was last year. The tariffs, we have talked about the tariffs. It is still... that was back in April. And we still don't know exactly whether the effects of the tariffs were good or bad. I know somebody out there is listening to be like, obviously they're bad. Don't you listen to this paper and these news and these sources and these economics. But then there's somebody equally on the other side that's showing evidence that, oh yeah, look, they're working. This is exactly what they're supposed to do, and this and that. And I don't know. I don't know. I can't really see that level of the economy of whether they've worked out or not. I'm at the level where I'm having a hard time paying for my groceries. So, which I'm not going to get into again. I know I've talked about that a few times recently. I'm not going to complain about the groceries again. They are still terrible, by the way. Also in April of 25, I attempted to spend some time on Blue Sky. Both Twitter and Blue Sky, or X, whatever. I spent some time on both platforms doing promo stuff. I was doing my haikus. I've since shut those down because I didn't need... The promo I was doing was guerrilla warfare promo for particular reasons. And now that those reasons aren't really applicable, that I don't really need to to worry about that so much, and also because the very little of either place really inspired me, to say the least. Blue Sky got to be tiresome. It was just constant people complaining, just complaining and complaining and complaining about everything they could possibly complain about, with a bit of a left-leaning slant, just sprinkled on top. And Twitter, I've never really been a big fan of the format. I don't like the fact that people could just basically shout things out into the ether and then just be like, oh, okay, and then just be done. With no consequences, no nothing. And I feel like that's what Twitter is. It's just going to the Village Square, shouting your opinion, whether anybody likes it or not, and then going away. And I do 100% believe people being able to say whatever they want, but I also don't want to have to listen to it. So, especially if they don't really use Twitter in a way that nobody wants to. People go on Twitter to argue, or to have their opinion heard and nobody tell them otherwise. Those are the two types of people who like to go on Twitter primarily. I've had lots of people tell me, oh, I get most of my news from Twitter because you can get the news rapid fire. But it's not even news yet. It's events that are happening, and you don't even have details, and it's all knee-jerk. And I've had this rant before, so I'm not going to rant about it again. But I don't do knee-jerk reactions. I like considered approaches to things. During this time, I was really pushing the branding. I was using the subversive branding at the time that we're not using anymore, and I was really pushing that. I was had the website. I was making post after post, all kinds of places. So it's kind of funny that all of that led where it led, but this was the beginning back in April of the first rebrand. We also had my first interview on the channel. We interviewed Rob from Evanescence, the writing team, and we talked about Jack and V. If you have not purchased it yet, it's on Amazon. It's only a few bucks for the Kindle version. Jack and V, it's a solid adventure. I don't know if I'd call it an adventure per se. I don't think it's meant to be an adventure. It's meant to be a good read, a good experience. I guess you can kind of call it, and not everything has to be an adventure. And saying it's not an adventure doesn't take away from it, I don't think either. I don't think it means like, oh yeah, well it's not as good because there's no adventure. No, it's something different. And I think it turned out well. I've read the entire thing long before now, of course. and I liked what I read. I'm looking forward to what they have coming out next, and I'm glad we were able to give Rob a platform to talk about it. And we had a good discussion about AI and about the future of things and some other controversial things, and so it was a good, all-around good time. I may do more interviews in the future. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But that's so far the only major interview I've had. Now, we did have a special later on that was kind of like an interview, but it wasn't an interview. But we'll talk about that once we get to it. I had a few themed episodes after that. I talked about what my day was like what I do from the moment I wake up to when I lay down to go to sleep, typically. That was episode 17. And episode 18, I talked about my childhood. In episode 19, I talked about all of my failed artistic endeavors. How I didn't make it as a musician, I didn't make it as a writer, I didn't make it as a variety of things. And I'm still not, I still have not succeeded in any of those areas, but I'm not too bothered by it. I'm kind of irritated when people say, "Oh yeah, well, it's easy to do this and to do that," and they're using AI and things to write all their material or to draw all their art and whatnot. But I've done well for myself, I think, with what I have going on now. Do you remember when we talked about the local rap beef? Local rap beef that was going on. I talked about it twice. And the person that I was discussing that about, the person at the center of that controversy, had wanted to come on the show to be interviewed about it, and I gave him a couple of opportunities. I said, "Hey, get in touch with me. Hey, I'll be out and about. I can stop over, and we can do this." And we never could apparently meet in the middle on that so that he could say his piece. I still, if he could figure it out, if we could get the timing arranged, I'll allow him to say his piece. And I'll ask him some point-blank questions about it, about what was going through his mind at the time and what the perspectives of everyone else was. I'm not going to put him on the spot and do like a Howard Stern kind of like hot seat sort of thing. But the opportunity's still there. You got to work with me on the schedule. And you have to be there to do it. But that situation just kind of fizzled its way out, and the various participants went on to do all their various things. So it didn't last very long. I told my favorite joke about the three-legged pig, which was a joke that I heard from comedian Norm Macdonald. Even though I had heard the joke first in a different context, I later in life heard him tell it, and it gave me the warm fuzzies. Like, oh, here's a famous comedian. He knows the joke. Ah, it's my favorite joke. Episode 23, when I was threatened with legal action. Episode 23 is when I was threatened with legal action over my use of the previous branding. Now, I haven't been following too closely on what the person who threatened me with the legal action, what they're doing now. I don't know. I took a good hard look at how I was reacting to certain situations, and I took some good advice from friends of mine. And I've put that person firmly in the rearview mirror, and I don't know what they're doing anymore. I've done everything I can to block them on every single media I have. I've blocked most of their friends, too. I've blocked most of their friends so that their friends can't creep up on my pages. So I don't know if there's more that I've missed. Who knows? I blocked all of the lawyers. I blocked every single person from the law firm that I could find, in addition to every single page that the law firm had from across the country. Nothing more came out of that, by the way. After that episode where everything got laid out on the table, nothing more has happened. I have not received any summons. I have not received any paperwork. So I assume the case is dead and gone. I have no idea, and I honestly don't care. But yes, that was back in July when all that happened, which was kind of funny. We've talked about a lot of different things. We talked about cryptocurrency. We've talked about Labubu, those little demon stuffed things. We've talked about those. And after a while, I got back into my themed shows. I got back into storytelling. I went on a spree of just... Because I talked about my childhood, of course. I talked about what I do in a day. And so I talked about mental health, which I've done a few times now. More than once, because I think it's important. I talked about my musical tastes, how they evolved from when I was a kid up until now. I talked about my love life, all of my romantic entanglements from when I was of an age to understand that kind of stuff up till now. I talked about all the jobs I've had, my employment history. That was a fun one. Movies. Talked about movies. Talked about vacations. And of course, we had the bonus episode. We had the bonus episode, which I guess was... I'm not calling it an interview, because it was more a chance for him to... But this was for Robert Solomon from This Uncanny Earth, my co-host over there. He came on to talk about the oatmeal festival that had no oatmeal. Which was funny. There still hasn't been a satisfactory end to that. We still don't know why there was no oatmeal at the oatmeal festival. We talked about manliness and what it means to be a man and why it bugged me. And like the Old Spice commercials, those irritate me. And the Dr. Squatch, that irritates me. All that stuff bugs me. Like, I don't care. But we have covered a lot of ground. We have talked about a lot of things over the course of this podcast, over the past year. And I'm looking forward to another year of great things to talk about from here on out. I also had my opinion changed on a few things. Do you guys remember when I was talking about Dragon Age the Veilguard? About how I was waiting for it to show up on Game Pass to play it, and then it did. And then initially I was irritated by Tosh, the troublesome character. And then I grew to be kind of fond of Tosh. I liked Tosh's story arc. Some of the things were kind of awkward still and kind of forced. But by the end, when I was finishing the game, I was like, yeah, you do that, Tosh. You crush that enemy over there. Yeah. And I felt pretty good with my team and everything. So I ended up enjoying Veilguard more than I thought I would. As with most of the controversial games that people said, oh, this is bad because of this, oh, this is bad because of this. Well, all those games that I played ended up being pretty decent, to be fair. Right now, I've got another controversial game that I started recently, Star Wars Outlaws. And I'm not really into it, but not for the same reasons that other people are. Other people had problems for different things, but I'm kind of irritated with it just because of difficulty spikes and various things, and I don't know. It seems kind of boring, to be honest. It seems kind of boring. I'm bored with it. I'm not too far into it, though, so maybe it'll pick up farther into the story. But what do I have planned for the future? We've covered a lot of history. What do I have planned? Excuse me, I didn't plan that, but there it was. What do I have planned for the future? Uncanny Media as a whole is growing. I am affiliated on Twitch, so I'm getting ad revenue there. I'm going to be affiliated on YouTube very soon, so I'll be getting ad revenue there. I'm getting ad revenue here on Spreaker, so I'm getting sources of income to help pay for the expenses. The brand Uncanny Media is growing to encompass more things. We have several affiliate partners. Shout outs, of course, to Musicians Hangout, Cooking Basically, Lou Jack Promotions, Big Buff Records. Our fabulous affiliates out there. And there's more planned. I'm in conversations with a couple more big players for partnerships in the coming year. New content. Let's talk about new content. Maybe new old content. I'm thinking of reviving my morning news show. I don't know if you folks remember that. I had a morning news show that I put on YouTube. It was called Sippin' Coffee with Spider, which was a play on an old show from the old network. But it was news, and what I would do is I would talk about the news. I would be a week behind the news. I would talk about last week's news today was the tagline for it. And I would do it super early. It'd be like 5, 6 in the morning. I'm thinking of revamping that. I'd like to go back to that and do morning news, because I had opinions on those, and it was an opportunity to talk about some serious things and a variety of serious things without necessarily my stream of consciousness kind of stuff. It was really focused, and it was shorter. It was a half an hour, and I don't know if I'll keep it to that or maybe make it to an hour, but I'm going to try to bring that back. I would like to talk about the news again, which is something not too many people like to say, because who really wants to talk about the news? It's all bad these days. But I would like to talk about the news again, and I think I'm going to bring that show back. I think I'm going to make it a weekly show rather than a daily show, and I'm going to be talking about the news closer to when it happens. I'm not going to be waiting a whole week. But I might cover news from across the week leading up to it. I don't know. With my other one, I was a week behind per each episode, but I did the show daily. And it got to be difficult collating all that news data every single day. Now, if I do it on a weekly basis instead of a daily basis, I think I'll be able to manage that a lot better. I'll be able to pick and choose and get a good array of stories. News items, so to speak. But chime in. Let me know if you want to hear more. If you want to hear me talk about the news. If you think it's a great idea, let me know in the comments. If you think it's a terrible idea, then you can say so in the comments as well. But be nice about it. Be nice about it. I have other ideas for content as well. I'm trying not to stretch myself too thin. I don't want to increase my workload to the point where each of these individual parts kind of suffer. I don't want to lose track of what I'm doing with the podcast here, and I do my nightly game streams. My game streams are a nightly thing. They are constant. So trying to work something else in with that, and then trying to do the morning news show, and then have more than that, I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm not sure about all of that. But I do have ideas. I do have plans. I do have things that I want to do, and I aim to do them. I plan on doing them. But that's it. That's all we've got. I'm going to finish up here. I'm going to wrap this up. We're going to by the time the next episode comes out, it'll be 2026. The new year will have passed, and it'll be time to move on to new topics. I'm going to end here the way I said I was going to. I'm going to replay. Rather than my end theme, I'm going to be playing Dead Tree by Winter's End one more time. So you had the opportunity to listen to it twice. And if you could look them up on YouTube, and if you could subscribe to Winter's End and give a like to the track, it would mean a lot to me, and it would mean a lot to Marissa, in memory, of course, of her brother Chris. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Thank you for listening. Thanks for sticking with me for so many episodes. We've got a lot more to talk about. Have a happy new year, and I'll see you next time.
Dead tree fades.